Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now Desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Monday, June 12th, just after 11 o'clock here. Hope everybody had a great weekend and your Monday and your week are off to a great start. I got a very special guest here this morning on the desk. We've got Brandley Baker. She is the co-founder and president of a great organization called the Code 9 Project. It's a nonprofit helping those with PTSD, and it is PTSD Awareness Month here in June. So, Brandley, thank you so much for coming on this morning. And I just wanted to give you a chance here to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization, if you will.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here. So we are a national nonprofit comprised of active duty and retired law enforcement, military, and first responder personnel. We are a 100% volunteer organization. Many of our team members wear the call letters of PTS, so we understand this not only from a professionally trained perspective, but also from an experiential perspective. So we provide nationally accredited trainings for the prevention of PTS and suicide in those populations. We also build peer support teams and train peer support teams. And we have a very specialized critical incident response team that responds to specialized critical incidents nationwide. And those are department suicides, mass shootings, and major natural disasters.
Yeah, and being in Augusta, Georgia, we have a really strong military community here. So that's something that a lot of our viewers can definitely relate with. How did this organization come to be?
Well, I lost a very close family member who was a combat military veteran and law enforcement officer in 2010. He had PTS. I come from a long line of first responders and military, and I myself am a multiple trauma survivor, so I understand PTS very, very well. And even though it's 2023 and I have the pleasure of creating some awareness and advocacy with you, Nick, on your show today, we are still in a stigma-oriented society when we're talking about stress careers where our image is meant to be strong and impenetrable. And so the stigma of remaining silent when our nervous systems are breaking down from responding to call to call to call is still prevalent. So we are seeing spikes in suicides. We're seeing high percentages of PTS rates. And mind you, this is reported. Many stay silent.
Well, let me ask you something because I've noticed you're saying PTS, and I've always heard
Yeah.
it as PTSD. Is that part of the stigma that the society calls it a disorder, but you seem to have dropped the D from the acronym?
It's an excellent question. So, thankfully, due to science advancements, PTSD is no longer the diagnostic abbreviation. It is PTSI. It stands for post-traumatic stress injury. It is actually an injury to the brain. If you look at an individual's MRI scan, brain scan, from someone who has suffered from PTS, you will see damage to the brain. So we use PTS because basically, if you have served for 2 years or more, you have some post traumatic stress from answering calls.
Can you give us some sort of kind of a glimpse or an example, a look into what it's like to deal with PTS? Because a lot of us who have never been in that environment really don't fully understand what it's like.
Yes, absolutely. So some of the obvious symptoms would be flashbacks, nightmares, irritability, heightened startled response. Those are some of the common symptoms that you're hearing about and you might see, but there are subtle signs that are as equally important to understand, and those are inability to focus, short-term memory difficulty, just general irritability, self-worth issues, lack of trust in environments and others, including family members, right? If suddenly our family member is acting very suspicious and whatnot, those could very well be symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
And at least when I think of post-traumatic stress, we oftentimes associate that with military. But the way you're talking and kind of what you've said a little bit, it goes beyond that. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Absolutely. We all have nervous systems. You are in broadcast journalism. You suffer a tremendous amount of stress on a daily basis. You are reporting and receiving through your senses information on crisis throughout the nation, and that has a significant impact on your nervous system. We all sustained a tremendous life-changing circumstance called the pandemic, which really created an equalizing effect on mental health awareness, because life-changing events are extremely stressful on our nervous system. So now let's bring it to combat, military, and first responders who are answering our one vulnerable moment, our 911 call, right? Repetitively every day. That wear and tear without support, without an education of our nervous system and how and what we need to maintain our resiliency, absolutely has a detrimental effect.
Yeah, and you said it right there, I think. So a lot of people have, one really bad moment that they're in, and these first responders are there for everybody's one really bad moment, and taking all that in and taking all that home is difficult. And you said our job can be stressful in broadcast journalism, and yes, every now and then we get one moment where we are in a similar role to a first responder as where we see somebody's one bad moment in life. But I've regularly said I could not do the job that those people do, being out there on the front lines. It really is incredible. It takes some special people to be able to do that. But I want to go back to your organization and a little bit about what you guys do. So if somebody here in Augusta, Georgia needed to get some help and they wanted to reach out to you guys, how should they go about doing that?
Well, first and foremost, we encourage all departments nationwide to reach out for our trainings. Our trainings are life-changing for your officers and for you as leaders. We offer a 2-day leadership course. They are all nationally accredited. All law enforcement officers and first responders receive continuing education units for those programs. For officers that may be suffering, veterans, military personnel, we offer a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week peer support hotline. That's 844-HOPE-247. Again, 844-HOPE-247. In addition, if we offer a non-affiliated peer support group, it's called TOUGH. It's trademarked and nationally accredited as well, and that meets nationwide the third Saturday of every month. So in Georgia, if any department or first responders wanted to start a chapter, all they have to do is reach out to us, thecode9project.org.
There you go. And for anybody watching right now, we'll include that phone number and that website. We'll include that up on the screen as well. So you don't have to worry about it. If you didn't catch it right there, we've got you. Brandi Lee, we talk about the stigma around PTS and everything that comes with it. And we talk about ending this stigma. What does it mean to end the stigma, and how do we go about doing that?
It's a great question. Well, we are engaging in part of that process right now, you and I, Nick, in that having discussions to normalize the fact that no matter what job you do, whether you are a teacher, a military personnel, a law enforcement officer, we all are human beings doing jobs. And we all suffer stress, and images and pride get in the way of education, change, and the necessary components to provide the resources and the training to save lives, the lives of those that we are relying on to show up and do their job and do it well. I mean, we're seeing a lot of breakdown, specifically in law enforcement, and much of what we're seeing is a result of saturated nervous systems without the proper training and resources available.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you see a lot of success stories in your organization throughout the years, in the decade plus you've been doing this. What's that like when you see somebody who comes in maybe really, really struggling with whatever they have going on? What's that like, seeing them come out on the other side much better?
Well, it is truly priceless to be able to witness individuals who have served their countries and their communities at the expense of their quality of life to get to the other side and understand that They no longer have to silently suffer. It makes our travel worth it. It makes our deployments worth it. So it is truly priceless.
And how great has it been for you to see your organization growing over the last decade? I mean, when you started this, did you ever think that you would be having a conversation with a morning news anchor in Augusta, Georgia, talking about this? I mean, what's that like, seeing the growth?
Truly grateful for the opportunities. This here is a passion project. It means so much to be able to provide the awareness to the communities. And, look, we're all in this together, and it's up to us as community members to provide the resources, right? To make sure that departments are getting the proper trainings, not just the equipment, but the proper mental health trainings, the proper tactical trainings, everything that is needed to be able to come to our need and do it well. So to see our organization be a part of the solution instead of just a circular conversation about statistics rising and the problem, that makes all of this worth it, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you guys are doing great work, and I think it resonates with a lot of people in our community because, again, we do have a very strong both active duty military and veteran community here in Augusta. And so I think this is something a lot of people in our area will enjoy and hopefully be able to utilize if they're struggling. So, Brandley, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about with your organization or with ending the stigma or anything that we haven't touched on yet?
Just to the community, if this is resonating with you, please understand we are a nonprofit, so we thrive on donations, which afford us to make those deployments to departments that have sustained losses. And to any department, if you have sustained a suicide, please do not try to have an insular approach in dealing with it. Reach out to us. We are here. We will deploy. We will provide you with the resources and the critical interventions needed to make sure that there is no ripple effect in your department. And lastly, for all first responders and military service personnel, active duty and former, thank you for your service, and please reach out. You are not alone.
Absolutely. Great message there. Again, a great organization. Brandley Baker, co-founder and president of the Code 9 Project. We will include, again, all the information to their organization up on our website, WRDW.com. So if you missed any of it, we got you covered. Don't worry about it. Brandley, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity, Nick. Be well.
Absolutely. You too.